Ready?
Yep.
We are live. We are doing another photo critique. This time we are doing animals.
Animals!
Is that a song?
No, it just sounded like something we could use at the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah, so this is going to be animals. If you want to be part of the next critique, head over to fstoppers.com/contests. You set it up. What is the next
We're
theme?
going to be doing interesting sports portraiture.
Okay.
So it's kind of a narrow field of view.
But is that, can that be live sports, or is it like planned out portraits of athletes?
It could be anything, but I would imagine if it's a dramatic portrait, like, you know, it's something you've planned out. I'm thinking like Monty Isom, or I just released a video today on these like modifiers that you can make your lights look like stadium lights.
Yeah.
And that photographer, James Quantz, he's the featured image. Like, he's been on our community forever.
Oh, okay.
So his image is the crazy football player featured image. And he's going to give away 2 softboxes and 2 mods to a random winner of next week's contest.
Oh, cool.
So not only will we give away 2 tutorials, but one winner will get a whole lighting setup. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to our regular channel, and it's the video I released today.
Yeah.
So you can do any kind of portrait.
If you guys are watching this in the future or whatever, there's been a little bit of confusion. Somebody on the last critique page was like, when do these critiques come out? And that's kind of our fault. And 2, where do I see it? We have 2 YouTube channels now, the standard one and then the Fstoppers live account. We've been doing the live critiques on this separate YouTube channel, so make sure that you're subscribed to both. And apologies for being late on this one. My son, and I think myself, maybe you as well, we got COVID for like the 3rd time.
I didn't get COVID, but
I mean,
I didn't want to get COVID.
My test said I didn't have it, but I still felt a little strange.
I had a headache for like a day that was really bad, but Kristen had a headache too. And then we've been fine ever since, so.
Maybe you guys were just annoying each other.
No, it was I mean, a lot of it's just dehydration. It's getting hot here, and I just have I don't drink enough water, so I force myself to try to drink as much as I can.
Well, my son definitely tested positive again, so
He's had COVID 2 or 3 times now, for certain?
I mean, he certainly had it in January when we came back here to check on our house while it was being renovated. And then after our big boat trip, both him and I were really sick, and I lost my taste again, so I was like, it seems like I've got it again, but I tested negative then. But then he tested positive after the super spreader event we held
your event, huh?
Here at the house.
You held the super spreader event.
I didn't spread. Our buddy.
Well, I heard Nolan was positive, and you guys were going to the beach club and stuff.
After
like 4 days, 5 days?
Day 6.
Day 6, is that what we're down to? 6 days?
5 days.
5 days.
That's what the CDC recommends.
My brother-in-law had COVID, and he left after like 4 or 5 days and went out. And I was thinking, like, that seems irresponsible. And you were on, that was like right at the same time. And I was like, it's 10 days, right?
No,
5
days. 5 days after symptoms.
What's the science here? I mean, it's a whole different show.
You got to follow the science, Patrick.
It went from like 14 to 20 days to then 10 days.
Well, at the beginning, it was like you have to test negative, and then people were testing positive for months. So you have to just stay in your house forever.
I don't understand. We're at 5 days now? I thought if you get COVID, I'm not really worried about it, but I was just like, it's going to set you back for 10 days. That's annoying.
No, yeah.
So now we're at 5, and soon it'll just be like, if you feel good, just go on out.
Yeah, if you don't feel like confining, you don't have to.
This isn't the COVID journal. So.
Okay, let's look at this picture.
And you know what? I think you mentioned something off camera. You said, haven't we critiqued this before? And we absolutely have.
Yeah, I feel, and this is the highest rated image, right?
So we had to include it, but.
Yes, but whoever took this photo, one, that's a really bad watermark. Awesome picture. If you have already won before, you do not get to win another tutorial, all right? That's just the way it goes. But obviously, incredible shot. Are you ready? Let me see if I've got, how does it work? Yeah, maybe like that. Are you ready to rate it?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. 4 stars. We agree. I think it's a great shot. The question is there anything more to it than just right place, right time? It kind of looks like the bird is in shadow. Notice the shadow down below the bird. but the bird itself is bright, which makes me think this is strobed.
Wait, what?
Like
The wing under the wings is dark.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying like the light looks like 90 degrees from the shadow? It's like not like the sun's, because you can see the light in the bird's eye here. But you're saying that might not be the sun. That the sun is...
So whoever took this photo, I can't say your name, I'm sorry. He didn't write much information at all. But it just looks like the bottom of this frame is all shadow.
Oh, I see what you're saying. There's
but
no
the
highlights
bird
on the
looks
water.
bright. Like if you look directly behind the bird, the water
bright.
looks like an even exposure with the bird and the water. But below the bird, it's not adding up, which makes it feel strobed to me. But I don't know how you would strobe this. We've seen other shots where they're putting little food pellets down right where a strobe is, but how do you do that with a live fish?
I don't know. Do you remember when we worked at Ritz Camera? There was the big stinky guy. He looked like Michael Moore.
I did not remember that until this moment, but yes.
Well, he looked like Michael Moore, big dude. He was super nice, but he smelled so bad.
We called him the smelly guy.
And I don't know if he owned anything except like a 600 f4 and like a D3. That's the only thing I ever saw. Well, and he owned a strobe, and he was one of these photographers, I think, that like shoots with the telephoto lens and then has the little strobe, maybe even with a lens on it to like magnify it. And I saw this like in the 90s and 2000s, in the photo magazines, and I was always like, what are people doing with that? Could that be what this is, or does this look off camera enough? I imagine it's 600 millimeters, 400 millimeters. If the strobe is above on your hot shoe, that is as close to the lens at that distance that you could ever get. It would be the flattest, worst light, fill light ever. But this has some directionality to it,
I
right?
know.
It's casting the shadow from the wing onto the other wing.
It feels like the light is up above, kind of coming down. So I don't know how it was done, and that's why it's incredibly frustrating when these photographers don't write the story.
And this is probably the second time we've asked this guy to do that.
Exactly. All right, next up.
All right. We got a random winner for
The final one, number 10.
number 10, okay.
We'll go full screen here. This looks like it's got some strange post-processing going on. It's like, the kid photographers, and I don't even know how they do it, but it's like they put this haze on their photos, and some of them are good, but a lot of times they're not that good, and then they have these like speckledy painted gray backgrounds, and it's just got this like hazy child portrait look to it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing a good job of explaining.
I think I do, but normally the backgrounds in these photos are like neon sunsets and stuff.
No, not necessarily.
You're saying there's like a backdrop, like a painted backdrop?
Yes.
Okay.
In these photo studios.
See, I'm thinking of one particular photographer who's really well known, and his ads show up on my Facebook all the time, where he takes the kid walking down the street, and then all of a sudden, the after is this nuclear crazy thing where the sun sets behind him, and it looks like a painting, and it's hazy, kind of like what you're describing. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm not sure.
Okay, well, it's like
I think I do know.
There's like kid photography where it's like kids are usually like in a park or like a field, or they're walking down the street, the long and narrow street, and the shot looks like straight out of camera. It's just like an overcast day, and then all of a sudden the after is this like super like hyper realism, sunsetty saturation to 1,000. But that's not what you're talking about.
No. Thank you for explaining what I'm not talking about. This was taken by John Jan Han Eid, and this is called a mufflon. It's Europe's only wild animal in the sheep species. Shot with a Sony 200-600 during the day. And then they said, I've made a large print on matte cardboard, blah, 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 blah. So, what is going on with the post?
What did you say? What was the last part? You just kind of...
I've made a large print on a matte cardboard kind of wall
print.
picture. I don't know what that means.
I was wondering if he like was shooting towards a black mat or something.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping, but no.
Yeah.
So do you think there's just like trees behind this thing, and then they just desaturated it and made it gray?
It's possible.
That would be really nice to know. You know, you guys, we want the story behind the image. If it's all natural and you're like, no, it just looked like that, then write that in the next competition.
Have you ever been to one of these like meetings that happen late at night out in the woods, and they have the fire and people dress crazy like in robes and stuff, and they bring an animal like this to the fire, and like it almost, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, since I became one of the elite.
It looks like he's lit by that fire from underneath.
That's
and it's
true.
a nighttime shot, and he's giving you the look like, I must go through this.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
That's a good
Reminds
point.
me of that. Maybe I'm way off.
It's kind of similar to the mask I wear when I'm making the sacrifices.
Somebody recommended this Michael Myers. Is that the guy? Who's Austin Powers? Mike Myers.
Okay.
Have you seen this new series where he plays all the characters, and it's the Pentalariat or something?
No.
It's the dumbest show ever.
Is that?
But I started going to, like, I watched a few episodes. Like, every episode they kill off a guy and they bring in like a new celebrity actor, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know. Anyway, that whole story with the pentagram thing kind of reminds me of that.
Let's go.
All right.
3, 2, 1.
Between a 2 and a 3.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 2 on. Like, I don't hate it.
I think if you were scrolling through a portfolio, this would be worth putting in there.
There's just something about the editing that I don't like about this shot. I just feel like something weird is going. Like, if it was truly a natural gray background, maybe there's like rock back there or something. It just feels like it's too blurry. It feels like it's strangely desaturated. Just the whole thing feels so fake to me. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's totally real. Let us know in the comments of this YouTube video.
I don't hate it as much as you do, but
I don't hate it.
You gave it a 2. It doesn't belong in your portfolio. With the post-processing needs more work, or you don't like the direction they went?
No, I mean, it's a great shot. Like, you got the animal looking right at you. It's a cool-looking animal. It's got the interesting horns. The lighting's fine. I don't know. It's probably a 3. You're probably right. It's probably a 3.
Let's move on.
All right. What do we got here? So I would imagine this is strobe because our world does not have...
This isn't moonlight?
2 suns or 2 moons. Let's see if I can find this on our website. And did they write anything? I captured this. This was taken by Russell Hunter. I captured this from a photographic built around a waterhole. What does that mean? In South Africa, it is not perfect symmetry, but it came pretty close. It's a great experience to be so close to these animals. Once again, he did not explain how he did it. So what I think he's saying is, it's a photographic spot, like maybe it's like a little hut by a watering hole where they know these animals come to drink. Mm-hmm. I would imagine that it has either strobe set up or they just have hot lights set up on either side. Maybe that attracts the animals, and then you could shoot video or you could shoot stills, maybe? What do you think?
Sounds right.
Sounds like I'm a genius?
I don't know about that. It seems like you're Captain Obvious, but I keep looking at this thinking, did they just mirror this over? But they're not. It's 4 unique horses. And
is that a horse?
It's a horse, right?
Oh,
it's like
okay.
a strange-looking horse.
It's true.
It's a horse in character, wardrobe. But it's interesting. I just I've done a lot of nighttime photography like this with people, where everything's super black and it's just all strobe. Do you think it loses something, like taking a natural environment and then especially strobing it from both sides?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's so awesome that you got to be there with these dressed up horses in real life. But I think this would be infinitely better if it had light coming from one direction.
Yeah.
and they were casting shadows on the ground and casting shadows on the water and everything. I think that would look awesome. But because of the way this is lit, it feels like it's at a zoo or something.
What if you went the other direction and you had backlights lighting them too, and like made the lighting even more over the top? Would it kind of, it would probably go more in the direction of not liking it as much for you? Or do you think that would help?
I don't know. I feel like I want to see some detail in the background, and if you're going to start doing this crazy studio lighting on these animals, it just no longer feels natural to me.
It is an interesting idea, though. Like, if you had access to this, if this was your land, and you could do anything you wanted, and give a photographic video experience to your visitors, like, how would you do it? I mean, you remember that big softbox we used to shoot that Lamborghini?
Yeah.
Like, what if you built something huge to where it just looked like a studio set at night, and you're like, man, it's this soft overhead lighting or side lighting, like you were saying, and you just, maybe they would never come up to the water. I don't know, but.
Well, that's what I'm so curious. Again, it would be nice to know how this was lit, but I'm just going to guess, because this was previously built, at least that's the vibe I get from how he wrote it.
Somebody's saying like a hut, meaning like they hid in a hut.
That's what I think.
Okay,
that's what I'm guessing.
You think he set up strobes and no one else is taking a picture like this in that location?
I don't think so.
You think it's permanently lit up for this?
I would think, I'm just guessing, that this is something that he paid for, an experience he paid for. And for simplicity, the owners of this location put 2 light bulbs out on the ground so that everybody from every location could get shots or video, and it would just work. Because nobody's going to be like passing around a pocket wizard, you know, oh, now you get a shot, now I get a shot.
Like, I mean, a lot of these excursions, like, you have to pack so lightly to go to Africa.
Right.
You're not packing, you know, anything more than a speed light at best.
Yeah.
But to have everything set up for that. Did we rate this?
No.
You want to rate it?
I'm having trouble trying to decide what it should be. All right. 3, 2, 1.
I'm between a 3 and a 4. I'll go 4.
I was thinking almost 2. Like,
really?
In between 2 and a 3.
I mean, I can see why you think that. But I think this is cool enough and sharp enough. And if this is hot lights with weird white balances and stuff, like it's photographed in a way that looks clean and it kind of looks like strobe, even if it's 45 or 180 degree lighting. It's not the most flattering lighting.
You know, my other issue is I don't like when you light anything from like this direction, but it also appears that the lights are like on the ground, right? They're not, it doesn't feel like they're up on light stands shining down. It just feels like they're right, you know, on the, like you those work lights that you get for $2 at Home Depot or whatever, they just plugged them in and laid them on the ground. That's what it feels like to me. I'm probably being too much of a stickler here.
I mean, it's above that horse's head.
It is?
Yeah. I mean, I think, look at the light in the eye. Can you see it? You can't see. Can you see what I'm doing here?
Horses have really big eyes.
Can you see
the
light there? It's like shoulder length, and you can kind of tell because of the way the shadows are being cast, you know. If it was up higher, their legs would be darker and their bodies would be brighter.
All right, next up.
I'd like to see a series of this, you know, like different ones.
You're the series guy.
Well, series save everything. If you have a series
if you have a bad photo, do a lot of it, and Patrick will love it.
I mean, it makes it better.
Yeah.
What can I say? Speaking of horses, that's a fat horse.
Yeah. It's a morbidly obese horse.
It almost looks like a camel.
I'm sorry, once again, I cannot read this person's name. Let me go full screen for you guys here. Read that name, Patrick. You got it. Okay. He says, it's a long journey, a composite image. Had to place the camel from another image in the center as it was hard for us to communicate. Okay. That's interesting.
Say that again?
He just grabbed the camel from another shot and put it in.
Oh, so it wasn't even there.
Right.
I mean, he's perfectly placed to where his footprints are on the opposite side of the mountain, you know, the opposite side of the dune.
Well, the other interesting thing is, I don't think I would have ever guessed that this was a composite. However, now that so everything that I'm about to say doesn't really matter because he fooled me. But the direction of the light doesn't make any sense here, because we have the part of the sand dune closest to the camera with light on it, but then it kind of I mean, you can see a little bit of light on the obese horse's leg.
Yeah.
But the majority of the horse is in shadow, but it shouldn't be based on the direction of this light.
I mean, this lighting event and the shape of these dunes and everything looks so sporadic and chaotic and like dynamic, throw out every word I know, that it could look like that. I don't know that the camel looks out of place. Like you said, there's this highlight on its leg, and the shadow is kind of coming down and back, and all the shadows seem to be going to the left. Look at the shadows down here on these little things, these little plants. They're all kind of like soft and behind, coming towards the camera.
Here's the other thing that's
it's not the craziest.
Freaking me out a little bit is what is causing this shadow here. Is this a cloud?
Or another dune that's off to the right, or...
It feels like dodging and burning, but I don't know. And again...
But see, it's happening multiple times. It happens up here, and it's happening... I mean, you see that formation happening a lot, and... The frustrating thing about being in a place like this is that you want to get a shot that looks like this, but in so many instances...
Maybe the sun isn't coming from camera right. Maybe it's coming from, like, back, you know...
Behind, yeah. That's what I would say. And again,
Okay.
you go back to these little plants, and look, the shadow's coming towards you.
Okay, that's kind of hard for me to see.
The shadows are coming towards you. And the light on the camel is kind of like that. I don't think him being in shadow. Maybe you could argue the density of the shadow on the camel is a little too much. But anyway, that's not anything that would pull me out of this image. I think this is really
right.
cool.
I
fooled you,
it
so.
It fooled you too. Trust me. Are you ready to rate it?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
I'm going to go 4.
Yeah, this is...
Got a good leading line going straight to the camel. I don't think you could put or should put a crazy sky in here because like that's how the desert looks. I like that hazy top part. It doesn't take too much of the frame.
What if you put the Milky Way in there though?
That would be cool. That would be really cool. I don't think I've ever seen that before. And like he's just looking at the stars and the galaxy and the hazy.
Hey, and maybe it would work, you know, like if you put a really dark blue wash over this whole thing and then you make it look like night. I don't know. I might be able to pull it off.
I like it. People are saying it was Jeep lights, that they just park the Jeeps and fire the light from the car into, that would make sense. Well, about that height.
Yeah, that would prove my light direction theory.
Yeah, but it wasn't permanently set up. It's new every time. All right, you ready? Moving on.
Let's go full screen here.
I can't not look at images like this and start thinking about the political global warming stuff. It's like when I see a polar bear now in water, that's what my mind thinks of.
He's dying of heat right now. I know, honestly, like I was just having this conversation with somebody, might have been yesterday, where I'm like, I'm not a climate change denier, but how much of what was in that original Al Gore movie ended up being totally bullshit?
I never saw that movie.
How is that possible?
Came out in college and somehow I just never saw it.
I thought he was saying stuff like, by 2020, we're not going to have any polar ice caps.
They always say that. Everyone says that.
But
I'd love to know what predictions in like the 50s were.
Oh,
because they probably had something. Was it like nuclear war? We're all going to die from that, or something? I don't know if they were
going to run out of food. We're going to run out of gasoline by the 1980s. Whatever. Like they had crazy predictions.
It was baby food. They had no idea that it would be baby formula.
Yeah. Now we're running out of baby formula. Yeah. So.
I don't know. Like I remember, wasn't this debunked? Where one of the classic shots was it from that movie, where it was just polar bear shot during the summer when they naturally like lose some of the ice and then it comes back. And then in this picture, I mean, I'm not trying to say that I don't believe in global warming or that, I don't know. This is what it makes my mind go to. here he is in a scene where you would think he can't survive because there's no ice for him to walk on, and yet he is on ice. Like he's not Jesus. He's not walking on the water here. He's like on ice just barely above the surface, which is kind of interesting.
Is there any land where polar bears live, or is it all ice and snow?
I thought like the North Pole. I mean, I lived in Alaska. I should know the answer to this. I feel like it's a lot more land than you think, and it has ice on it. But my simple mind likes to believe that it's just this, ice cube that's floating out there, and it's all ice. And then once it's gone, it's gone. But as we saw in Iceland with the ice caves, like it comes and goes and comes and goes. And when it's in transition, you don't want to be in the ice cave because it could collapse and kill you. But when it's cold enough, it starts actually building back up. And then when it gets summer, it shrinks back down. I mean, it's a very complex, dynamic thing. But
well, what do you think about this image? Talk to the people. Give me a second to read what this photographer wrote.
I love this image. I love the mirrored image. I love the composition. The blood on his beard and everything looks really cool. Shows that, there's a story that happened outside of the frame that you captured. You're wondering, like, what did he eat? How long ago did he eat? Again, I think we've been preconditioned to look at images like this and think about global warming. And, we had this argument in a friend group about, endangered species and, like, laws that protect them and stuff. Like, there's all this that we probably throw in an image like this. But then with the blood in the movement, him walking away, I feel like it makes you kind of takes you out of that and makes you start to think of the real story of this creature, like what just happened and where is he going. And there was a part of me that wants it pulled back just a little. I don't know if that would ruin this, but like I want to see a little more of the environment. Like imagine if this was super high res 50 megapixel image and you shot much wider and it showed him like out there and then you could walk up to it and then see this frame. Maybe that would be stronger.
It does feel a little tight, and my eye goes right to the polar bear, obviously, and I kind of miss the reflection of the polar bear. So to me, from a composition standpoint, it feels like the polar bear needs to be pushed down in the frame, like the camera needs to be tilted up more. But then I notice, the photographer wanted to also capture the reflection of the polar bear, so then it kind of makes sense why they framed it like this. But like you said, I think I would also, and I'm sure they got wider shots as well. I think I'd like to see those also. They said that this was taken, can you read this? Svalbard?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know where that is. He was on a boat with ice all around, and then he heard splashing. Polar bear comes out with blood on his face from a fresh catch, and he says he shoots this in about 1 minute, handheld, doesn't have a tripod, and he's on a boat. And he said then the polar bear went away. So
we have Mr. Shutters in the group, and he is in the feed. And he's saying, there's land, but mostly ice. The common place to photograph these bears is exactly where this was taken. So this must be a tourist spot that people go all the time, and you can kind of predict to see them and everything.
Cool.
The more I look at this, I love the reflection because it's not perfectly mirrored. I love that water, turbulence coming out from his legs, and it's breaking the reflection. That's super dynamic. Looks really, really cool. I keep thinking if I'd want to see this in black and white, it could be cool, but I think it's better with the tones of his fur and in the red. Like I think it's better as a colored image, but this could be cool in black and white as well.
Do we rate it?
I gave it a 4, I thought. No? Did we not rate this?
I don't think so.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. I give it a 4. I'm just messing with you.
Wait, what?
I give this a 4.
We already rated this?
No, I don't. You just said we didn't.
Yeah, I know, but
and I said I thought I gave it a 4.
But then you gave it a 3.
Why did it to me?
You're messing with yourself.
No, I love this. The more I look at it, I think this is a really cool, solid image. And if he didn't have the blood on his face, I think it would be like a 3. I think that gives such a cool story.
What if he actually had the catch in his mouth? Then what is it?
You know what? I might like that even less than the way that it is here. I think it's kind of cool that you don't know.
All right, next up. Now, it's always interesting because I choose the genre of the critique based on a cool image that was uploaded recently to the community.
Okay.
So this image had been uploaded somewhat recently, I think, or at the very least, it made it to the top of some list in the back end of our community. And I was like, oh, that's a badass picture. Let's do animals. And then it's always funny when the photographer sees that I used their image in the critique, you know, as like the featured image.
Because
and then they submit the very image that I've used as the
and then it
image.
doesn't get rated the highest image?
Well, sure, but whatever. I would imagine this has got to be close to one of the highest rated.
I can't remember. I mean, I think, so we have 10 images. I think like 7 of them are the top rated.
Okay.
And then I kind of dug deep to find some favorites that I liked that wouldn't have made it. But
well,
everything's in like the top 20 or 30. I mean,
just so everyone knows, that one of that little bird with the fish, that was the highest rated. That got 3.76. And this one by Marcus Vorwaller was rated 3.69, so very, very, very close. He says, a great blue heron spreading its wings to intimidate the bald eagles that were eyeing its hunting ground. I do wish you told us what lens this was shot on, but this feels, it doesn't feel like it was strobed or anything like some of the other shots we've seen so far. Are you ready to rate it?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
I think I might go like the elusive 5.
Oh, sorry, guys. I am not offended by that. I mean, this is probably my favorite shot of the entire critique.
And what's so funny is, like, photographically, you say, what's a 3, what's a 4, what's a 5? Like, how could I possibly throw 5? I don't even know if it has anything to do with what the photographer did. It's just the amazing tone and colors and texture of that bird.
I think he's done a bit of work in post-processing.
Really?
Not like hours, but I think to bring back
the detail in the shadow?
Yeah, I just think this shot's a little flat for a natural, like, out-of-camera shot. I think he has raised those shadows to show more detail on the wings. I could be wrong.
Again, so it might not be a lot that he did on location, but it's in post-production.
But I mean,
we both know that
right
that's
place, right time. Like, it's a cool shot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love the composition and everything.
But if you didn't have all these little flyaways and like this interesting stuff going on here with the fur, not the fur, but the feathers.
Yeah, bird fur.
I mean, that's a really weird. What is that though? It's birds don't have fur, right? Or do they?
I mean, I don't know at what point do you consider? Yeah, does a feather become hair? But I'm sure that is still considered a feather.
It's got to be. It's got to be. But it doesn't look like it, right? It doesn't look anything like what even a wet feather on his wing would look like, you know? Anyway, I love all that texture. I mean, I can look at every single part of this bird and find amazing interest. Every single part. It's like, wow, that is really, really cool. And it looks majestic, and I know it's kind of in a defensive posture, but it doesn't register that way. I wouldn't have known that an animal's attacking it.
Didn't say attacking. You just said bald eagles were hunting in the area. Okay. Not for him, but for fish.
Okay, well, he's threatened in some way, but...
Next up. You got any geese stories?
Geese stories?
Like, you know how geese are assholes? Like, geese are always attacking people and stuff.
Not particularly.
Dude.
Sounds like you have one.
Well, we had this duck pond in college. You know, there's always like the few mean ones that you'd be feeding the bread, and the mean ones would come up and bite you and stuff. And people freak out, and you don't think you're gonna freak out, but then
when it's coming after you.
Yeah, when it's coming after you, you kind of start to freak out because you're like, man, this thing's big. Like, its beak is like a little pinchy. And we've got this duck pond here with these ugly ducks. These are some ugly ducks. And you remember when I was there with you, and that one started attacking me?
Yeah.
And like, even I started freaking out, and I'm like, I could kill this thing with like one hand. I could strangle it, but for some reason, when it's coming after me, it's like I lose all of my manhood, and you know. So I go out there the other day with my son. He's like 1, and I set him on the bench because I'm like, I gotta watch out because I remember the mean one.
Yeah.
He starts coming after us.
Yeah.
And so I start kicking him in his chest, like not hard, but I'm like, hey, get back, get back. And I can tell like he's trying to get my son because my son's little. Then he starts coming after me, like I keep kicking him and kicking him and kicking him. He flies up and tries to like straight up attack me. And I kicked him right in his chest. And he stopped at that point. But I kicked him pretty hard. It was ridiculous. And I've talked to other people in this neighborhood, and they're like, yeah, that duck's attacked me and my kids too. It's a menace.
So you Johnny Depped it. You just went boom.
Johnny Depp?
Yeah.
What did Johnny Depp do?
What do you mean?
The Amber Heard? I Amber Hearded the duck.
Oh, see, I thought you Johnny Depped it.
No, I Amber Hearded it.
Well,
I pooped on its bed.
See whose side you're on.
All right. Are you ready to rate this?
I am.
Let me see it one more time real quick. All right, I'm ready. 3, 2, 1.
Between a 3 and a 2, but I'll give it a 3. I think from a post-processing standpoint, it looks really nice. Like it pops. There's something about like the composition and the framing.
That was going to be my complaint. I feel like I want the bird to be on this side of the frame. Now I got to move it a little bit more. Something like that looks a little better to me. When the bird is like
already through the frame.
Yeah, the head of the bird is about to go out of the frame. It just feels uncomfortable to me.
I think like the tendency is you see all this cool spray in the background, and you're like, I gotta include that, and so you want that storyline in there, like that fast shutter that's captured all of that. But I think you're right. I don't know if we could ever frame it up correctly up here to get it to work, but the more I zoom in on it, the more I'm just like, it's an incredible moment, but
it's just not that incredible of a moment. Like, we've all been to the duck ponds, we've all seen the ducks, and we've all seen the swans, like, coming in for the landing.
I know, but capture it like that with the tunnel and the reflection and, like, the symmetry, like, that's the amazing moment.
I mean,
and you see it in real life, but not, when it's captured and frozen like this, I think it's a cool moment. But there's something about it, like all of the top part of this frame doesn't really do anything for me.
So this was taken by Joe, some name I can't pronounce. I was just getting out of the vehicle when I heard a loud sound, turned around to capture the swan coming in for a landing. His approach was very long, and I caught the entire landing. This was my favorite photo of the landing when the wing tips gracefully touched the water, causing ripples. Shot on a Nikon Z6. With a Nikon 200 to 500 lens. Do you have any interest? I don't know why I'm asking you this, because I know the answer is no.
I do.
But like, I've heard a lot of people recently talking about how much they like Nikon's new cameras. And we used to shoot exclusively Nikon. Like, Fstoppers was
do
built
for stills. If I have to take a picture, every video I'm using the archaic D850, which is still an incredible, like, it's more of a camera than I need. But if I need to go mirrorless, we've played around with the Sonys. We own Sonys. We've got the Panasonics. Maybe toyed around a little with some Canons, but Fujifilm, we've been shooting on those from time to time. But the Nikon, I've never even held that camera. Yet I was a Nikon fanboy, and that's the only camera system I've ever owned.
Isn't it? It's kind of crazy that we were exclusively Nikon shooters for over 10 years. We own a photography tech blog where weekly we're doing like product reviews and stuff.
Yeah.
And we have not held a Nikon mirrorless camera.
It makes me think that Nikon is, not just because of us, but like it makes me think Nikon is completely missing the mark, and their marketing's horrible, and they've fallen behind, because Nikon eclipsed Canon with the D3 back in the day. Maybe even went further with the D4. All these sports shooters changed over, and then it feels like, and a lot of it was with ISO. Their ISO performance was incredible, and then their autofocus was great. And then now I feel like I rarely see people shooting on the Nikon D series, the Z series.
I just wonder, like, is Nikon struggling, or are we, like, we've just kind of lost interest in new camera gear? We find what we like and we just have kind of stuck with it. I'm sure there's some of that as well. But I have been hearing a lot of rumblings about we heard it with Sony. When Sony was coming up and everybody's switching to Sony, like we didn't care about Sony, but we heard about it. We heard another person is switching to Sony, and we're like, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?
I feel like everyone I know shoots Sony now.
And then
Sony feels like the #1 brand.
Yeah. But it just seems like if you still like shooting Nikon, you should sell the Nikon gear that you have and buy the new stuff and just, to like review it and make the content.
I need to find out if I like the image quality and the files as much.
The image quality? Come on, of course it's going to be better.
But better than the Sony? I don't know. Like, I'm starting to get...
It'll all be the same.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I just... I feel like we started Fstoppers shooting video on Nikon cameras, and it was so bad, and they got so far behind. They were the first to market, technically, and we just kind of adapted to what we had. But their video was so bad, the image quality was so bad, the stabilization was so bad, the slow motion was so bad. Nothing in Nikon's system was good for video, and a lot of people would be like, why do you shoot video if you have a stills camera? But that's what we did, and that's what we still do. So today, when I think of Nikon, I, in my mind, want to say, I bet the ISO is great. I bet the image and the colors and all those things that I liked before are great. Their lenses were really great. But I still have this bad taste in my mouth of the video. And when I shoot with Sony, I'm like, they have both. You can have great video quality, amazing video quality, and it rivals everything. Maybe its stabilization isn't quite as good as Panasonic or something. But you could have both. Great image quality. People shoot weddings on Sony and then switch over and do video, which is exactly what we want. But with Nikon, I don't kind of get that vibe at all. Maybe I'm way wrong.
I think you are. I think that was true years ago.
They're doing 120 frames a second slow-mo that looks awesome with all the frame capabilities and
I think
codecs.
so. I think so. Like, obviously, we don't know. But
it's crazy that we don't know.
People keep talking. I know. It's weird that we don't know.
We should get that camera.
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
But to sell what I know already?
Well, I know how you don't like learning new things. Next up.
All right. So this image was one of a 2-image series that got posted in this contest, and I think this was rated higher. I kind of liked the other image better, but then when I did read the comment on this one, the backstory. This was everyone's favorite frame from this series that he did with this elk or deer.
Well, I'm getting confused now because we recently critiqued another image from this guy from the same series, I think.
Say that again?
Recently, I think this guy submitted other pictures of this elk, or I used one of his elk pictures as a featured image. I don't recall
seeing this picture, but
where have I seen it? Now I gotta look real quick. Hold your horses. Let me go to back on the screen. Yeah, here it is. Your best photo from 2022.
Oh, was that in the critique?
I think so.
No, because we just did that like 2 weeks ago.
Let's see.
That image did not make it. There's no way.
Okay,
There's
so
no way.
I just used it as a featured image.
And I never saw your post.
Okay.
So. But yeah, that image is the one that I like better than this, I think. But
yeah.
Now that I look at this, I'm like, it is really a crazy
Well, let's
angle.
give the people a little full screen for a second. Are you ready to rate this?
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm going 3, you went 4. I feel like something needs to be done in post on this. I feel like it's washed out. I want more dark. I want more contrast. And right now, it feels like a raw image straight out of camera, which needs a little touch of magic.
If this is a raw file straight out of camera, this is the camera I should switch to. Because that looks incredible. Like,
I'm not saying it's bad.
It looks processed to look like this. I feel like it's got a low contrast. It's got that Fujifilm look. Does it say what it was shot on? I'm assuming it's like a Canon or something.
This was taken by Mark Rowe. This was one of the most popular images from a series that I shot during a cold, wet day. The rain drenched the deer's coat and at the time made it glisten. I was waiting for the shot for a while, getting to know the stag's movement and behavior. I stayed in the same spot until it circled around and reached up to pull the branch down. I had visited the spot at least 10 times before I got these series of images. This particular shot has placed second in a global competition, been featured in all UK papers, and sold very well on limited print. Interesting. In terms of editing, I removed a very small branch from the top that was distracting, as well as enhanced the existing light.
So the photographer is in the comments right now.
Oh, cool.
And he said it's shot on a Canon, which is what I guessed. But it doesn't have that like green kind of tone that Fuji has a lot. Maybe it's like a Fuji film stock that has this vibe.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't think I need more contrast. I think it works really well with the low contrast feel. I could see, though, where you could remove the branch altogether, darken everything like that goat head, and give it a contrasty vibe, and now all of a sudden it's like a movie poster. Like, it's right there. It's lit in a way to where you could just process this differently, and it's a Netflix cover, and you're just like, ooh, I gotta watch the Deer Hunter 2022, you know?
Put like a hook through it and it's like hanging dead. That's what you gotta do.
Come on, no.
Oh.
But I love it. I think we rated it, right? I gave it a 4, you gave it a 3.
Correct.
I think this is great. I see why it won.
I like it, but like you said, I like his other shot from the same time more.
That might be true too. We don't have a way to show that on
Head over to fstoppers.com/contest if you want to see it, and just scroll down to some of the previous.
I almost picked that image, but then I read the description and everyone liked this one better, and this was rated higher, so I was like, let me put this one in. It's a little more unique. But for me personally, I think I like the other image better, but this is really cool too.
Next. Let's go a little full screen action here. So this has got kind of some hazy goat head editing, funny business in this shot as well.
I misread. The camera was not Canon. It was Sony.
Oh, okay.
Because
everybody switched to Sony. Yeah.
Somebody wrote Canon, and it.
Tobias Cater took this natural light shot. How is this natural light? Let me continue. Natural light shot of a grapevine snail trying to climb a tree from branch to branch. Shot on a Canon 6D with a Tamron 70-300 and some extension tubes to be able to focus this close.
You've been doing a whole series on lens making.
Is this natural light? There's got to be lots of burning going on here, dodging and burning, right? It looks like it's being lit from two sides.
It's hard to say just because its texture is so slimy and reflective, and you're going to have all those specular highlights. Like you have it down on the bottom slope, like down here. Mm-hmm. So that looks like a light source. But then you also have it up here, which looks like a light source. But could those two light sources actually be the same? And it's just, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Because you also have it up here, you know,
yeah.
And that seems like kind of the same position, but I don't see like a rim light or some underlight or something that really gives it away.
Maybe it's an optical illusion, but the snail is, you know, it's coming down like this, and so the sun is coming here, it's hitting the top of the snail, and then as the snail scoops back around, it's hitting here too. Maybe that's what's happening. It just feels like we have light coming from two directions. But
do you think with I don't know much about extension tubes, and I didn't work with the macro tutorial that we did. That was more David, so I didn't get to learn all the tricks in macro photography. Do you think that this, one trick that I did learn though is, do you think this background is real? Or is this one of those situations where this thing's moving so slowly and you have an assistant or a friend, or you put the sheet of paper behind them and all of a sudden you can give this kind of studio quality? Or does the extension tubes, maybe at 200 or 300 millimeters, blur the background that much to where this is just some tree or foliage that's...
I think so. I think they would have said, I think they would have been proud if they had brought a fake printed out piece of paper.
Not even fake though, but you could just travel, if you travel with extension tubes with the mindset of shooting macro photography, you might just have a notebook of paper.
Sure.
All it is like yellow or green paper.
I think they would have said that. It's not yellow or green paper, it'd be speckledy paper.
Oh, you want it to be all shiny and...
Well, it's not one solid color in the background there.
No, but if the sun was hitting it in a way, like cheap poster paper you made your projects out of, if you put that behind there...
It would never be that different.
Okay, well, it's not sparkly paper, like glittery paper, although I do see that a lot with macro photography.
Do we have any else? Or is it, oh, yeah, we got one more, it looks like.
We never rated this one, right?
Let's rate it. 3, 2, 1, 3 stars. Yeah. There's a little like haze going on the shell. I don't know what that is. I don't know how you guys do it.
Depth of field?
Maybe.
I mean, look at this depth of field.
Like
that looks crazy there, right?
Yeah, that is super shallow.
I don't know. I feel like when you start putting things between your lenses and you have an older lens or you have humidity or like there's any number of things, like you get these weird wonky things going on where it's kind of a cool effect, but I would always be frustrated that it's not as sharp or as contrasty as it should be. But that is kind of...
Well, I mean, the 70 to 300 millimeter lens is not a high quality lens.
The apertures.
And then to put extension tubes on top of a cheap lens, it's not going to be the sharpest lens. So maybe that's all that's going on in this image, and it's literally
You're
natural.
saying I should get the Nikon Z camera. I feel like we should get a box full of just crappy kit lenses and like do challenges where, not like photographer shoots with a crappy camera, the whole like David Hobby thing that he used to do back in the day, but all right, you got a good camera, you have the Sony, but you have to use like an extension tube and this crazy lens or a 1.2 lens or like there's any number of things you could do. Some vintage lens, it's manual focus, and it's like...
I think that would be more fun. I think if you used a kit lens for a photo shoot, you'd never be able to tell. I think it would look fine.
Well, you just said this horrible lens, how could it possibly produce good results? And now you're saying, oh, it would be fine.
We just gave this a 3. Like, I think this is a good shot.
So what are you saying?
I'm saying you got to go further than the kit lens for a fun video. I think you got to find some vintage lens or some broken lens or like a handmade lens or, you know, like I did this video last week on the pinhole lens, and I was thinking, what if we did some pinhole photography challenge where like we must create our own camera and then go shoot or something? I think that could be fun.
Well, you have the leg up because you spent how long doing all of that?
Honestly, not long at all. Like I probably did all of that in like 2 hours.
I liked that video, but the results left a little bit to be desired.
The results of the images themselves?
Yeah, it just looked like nothing was in focus. And
well, yeah, that's the nature of shooting through Reynolds wrap.
Yeah, well, the nature. But can't you make a pinhole camera that would have given you a sharp image?
Well, so in theory, there's got to be a way to do it better.
I mean, there was a guy who made this out of like a U-Haul truck once, right? And he putting like photo paper against the back? Yeah. But everything was in focus, and a pinhole camera produces in focus images, right?
I mean, to a certain extent.
Yeah. It's not. Like
I think I could
24 or 32 or something crazy.
I don't know. Next up, final image, and this is the winner of a free tutorial from the Fstoppers store. Send me a private message. Oh, and I still owe the winners from last time. I'm sorry, I saw that you messaged me. I haven't gotten to it. I will do it.
You've been fighting geese.
I've been fighting geese and COVID and everything. Let's go full screen on this one. It's funny that I assume this is a chipmunk and not a squirrel, but where we're from, squirrels are ultra common.
Where I come from, squirrels are ultra common.
Yeah, but in North Carolina, where my grandparents live,
a totally different world.
Well, they had chipmunks, which because they were Yeah, I think they're more rare up there, but
Okay.
they also don't have as many normal squirrels. It was super exciting to always see the chipmunk, but the squirrel is like a rat, you know? You're like,
Yeah.
I don't care at all about the squirrel, but the chipmunk, oh, it's so cute. Oh, look at it. Oh, there it is. It's basically the exact same animal.
Yeah, I don't know that I could, from this picture, tell the difference here. I mean, obviously it looks like their face is different, but is that just a squirrel with nuts in its mouth? I don't know.
And then they have like little bitty tails, I think, rather than the long, fluffy tails that a squirrel has. And then have you seen the black squirrels in person that are in like Hilton Head, South Carolina? I was once
black squirrel?
Yes. I was once shooting a bridal portrait, and this animal comes by, and I was like, what the hell is that? Is that a skunk? I thought it was a skunk. And they were like, no, those are the black squirrels that we have around here. I'd never heard of it before, and there was one right in front of me. It was crazy. Look it up. But
Wait, was I at this wedding with you? Was
I-
this a long time ago?
yeah. It's like probably 10, 12 years ago.
Was this the wedding that you missed the
can't.
first kiss?
I
Because the minister, it was like a,
don't even remember that.
okay. There was some wedding I shot with you, and I remember it was a Catholic wedding, and I think he was like, he didn't tell you this beforehand, but it was like, I do not say you can now kiss the bride. I pause after some other phrase, and if you want to kiss, you can. And I
okay.
remember like we're all waiting, and then you may now kiss the bride, and I look down, and you're like walking to the back of the thing. I was like, you just missed the kiss shot, but I almost did too.
Oh, but you got it.
But I was up in the balcony. I had some weird angle of it, and I was like,
Right.
oh. But I'm trying to remember that I think was in Hilton Head, and maybe
you know,
there was a moment when you said something about a squirrel, but I wasn't paying attention.
looking
Like
back,
a good assistant, I was somewhere else.
yeah. Looking back now on wedding photography, being that we're both married and we've had wedding photos taken, how important is the kiss shot to you? Is that something that if the photographer missed, you'd be like, wow, they really messed up? Or you're like, I don't even really want that shot because I want the shot where we're looking at each other. I would rather have the post shot outside.
It's strange because like I have this, we have a hierarchy of what shots are important in wedding photography, but looking back on my wedding images, my favorite images are moments that aren't like probably even in that list. It's like us exiting the church is one of our favorite pictures. And I feel like that's not even, like, it's one thing if you leave the church and everyone's throwing the confetti and you're like, that's a big moment. But if it's just this like soft exit, like we just walk down the aisle, you get that in the church, but then 20 seconds later, you walking outside in a natural light and the church is in the back. That's not even a shot that I would think, oh, it's an important one to get, but that was one of our favorite shots.
It's like,
And then the kiss shot, I don't even know if I can totally recall that one, even though we have it. It's not that high up the list.
I just remember as a wedding photographer,
The pressure.
oh man, like I cannot miss that kiss shot. But now looking back, I'm like, was that really that important? It just,
Or was it something photographers made really important in our little groups?
yeah.
And people would be like, I'd never shoot weddings because it's so stressful. What if I missed the kiss shot?
Yeah.
And then it becomes its own, this is called like the Barbra Streisand effect, where it's not even a thing until you make it a thing, and then it becomes this bigger thing, and all of a sudden, like every photographer watching is probably like the kiss shots. But if you talk to a bride, maybe they'd be like, yeah, that'd be nice to get, but I really want the one with my dad walking me down the aisle. And it's not even on the same level as what we've built it up to be.
Yeah, I never once asked a client how important that was, because in my mind it was the most important, so like it was understood.
Yeah.
But I missed it a couple times in my career, and I would feel sick to my stomach. I can't believe I failed.
You'd be thinking about the whole reception, and it's just eating at you.
Yeah.
And you're like, is there some chance that my assistant got it, or some way I can fake it, or some, I faked a lot of the one shot people want is the groom looking at the bride for the first time. You'd go and like the planner would be like in front of everybody, like make sure you get that shot of him crying, and you're like, don't tell my client that, because now I gotta get it. what if he doesn't cry? So like I would always just like grab a shot of him seeing his groomsmen come in or the bridesmaids and like know that I got a good shot of him.
Right.
And then I would just move that forward so that it was right before the shot of her.
I got you.
So they would always, you know, sometimes you get the actual shot, but it's hard to, you know, take your attention off the bride to get his reaction.
I've done that too.
But
I did that too. Like when I'd have done a couple of wedding videos, and I would film usually the grooms or the groom looking at his mother walking down.
Yeah.
And you could tell loving in the eyes, and then I'd be like, got it. Now I'm focusing on that bride and the father coming down the aisle. I don't care what the groom's face looks like. I'm just gonna fake it.
Yeah. Wedding photography. There's got to be like a wedding chronicle. I've always wanted. I don't want to write a book. I want to like team up with a book writer, and then I want to use the stories from everyone that we've heard of, you know, and like make like and then that way you can kind of hide behind it and be like, these are stories from the industry, and if I was your photographer, you wouldn't feel like, is he talking about me? Because I could say things I couldn't normally say because I would be like, this is stories from at least 10 other photographers that I've heard.
Yeah.
And there's some where like the guy pulls his pants down and moons the whole wedding ceremony.
It wasn't a moon. It was the front.
It was the front, and then gets arrested, and like that would be a story where you're like, that was my wedding, you know. But then there's other stories where like the mother didn't want the daughter to get married, and she's throwing up at the wedding, and finds out that they were already married, and
they would know that whose wedding you're talking about right now.
You think? You don't think?
Dude, that's the most. Didn't want him to get married, knew they were already married, then threw up while she was walking down the aisle.
Well, okay.
That's happened 0 times in the history of the world until
I bet it
moment.
hasn't. I bet that's vague. I mean,
that is not vague at all. That's not vague at all. It was vague until you said, and she threw up while walking down the aisle.
A better story would be like, one time I was shooting a wedding, and I knock on the door, and they're getting ready in a home, right? The guy's on one level, the bride's on another. They're not in different locations. The bride says, Patrick, I'm ready for you, come on up. And I come up, and she is completely butt-ass naked, facing me. And, you know, I've been around brides naked, it's not a big deal, but like, I didn't expect her to say, I'm ready, come up. And then you walk right in on her naked.
Yeah, she's not ready.
Yeah, she's not ready. She was ready for photos, I guess. And then to have to like, it's like this whole dynamics. Now I have to go downstairs and shoot the groom knowing I just saw his wife naked, complete, like not even like partially naked, like flat out.
She didn't have underwear on?
She had underwear on.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying she's totally topless,
okay.
like, and I don't know, some people are really comfortable with that, but most of the time they're not, you know? And then to go talk to him, and then I have to be like, is she gonna tell her husband that I saw her naked? Or should I acknowledge it and not make it a big deal? There's just all this weird stuff that goes on. But like a story like that, well, most brides would be like, I have no idea. Like I was naked or not naked. He's probably shot thousands of weddings. Like how, you know, it probably happens all the time.
But the fact that the way you would write it would be like, it doesn't happen all the time. It was the only time it ever happened. Yeah. Your client would be like, he's talking about me. And she's watching right now. And she's humiliated.
Probably like, it's not a big deal. Like I'm naked around people all the time. Like that's just her personality. But I just felt like it was strange because it's one thing if they're okay with it and they're like, all right, I'm gonna get dressed now. Come on, bridesmaids, let's do this. And you're just there. It's kind of unfolding in front of you. But to like invite the photographer up at the moment that you're like totally naked, exposed, it's just, it felt strange to me. I was like, this doesn't happen at every wedding. But.
So chipmunk photography.
Chipmunk photography. All right, we're just going on and on.
Are you ready to rate this?
I think I'm ready.
3, 2, 1.
We both did 2?
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad photo.
It's just an uneventful moment that's
with a pretty common animal.
Right.
So, you know, we've seen some other common animals, but like that bird picture that we love so much, it's, you know, bird arms outstretched with its bird hair.
Comments on that, it was an egret, I think.
Okay.
And somebody was like, I've photographed egret so many times, and I just thought there's no graceful, beautiful way to shoot an egret. It always just looks like this boring, ugly bird, but you have proven me wrong. And I kind of see where that guy's coming from. Like the way, I mean, that's my favorite image of this whole critique. The squirrel, the chipmunk, it's definitely that too. Or even if it's like flying through the sky and it's got, you know, got the wings and it's got the blurry background. It'd be some crazy. I mean, you've seen some crazy squirrel images, right?
Yeah.
Even those, I just kind of feel like the animal's so common that I can pull those type of images up over and over in my head.
Well,
and they're always like these goofy images too, where it's like a meme, or it's like they've made the eyes bug eyes, or like they've done some crazy caption. It just feels like it's so not valued in our society that animal and that type of picture has become its own little joke among the world, really. Like,
what is your thought about photos of iguanas?
Photos of iguanas? I don't know that I've seen a good iguana photo.
So, before moving to Puerto Rico, iguanas and lizards were super rare, special animals, right? You know, if you got an up-close picture of an iguana, like that would be crazy. Like that's way crazier than shooting a squirrel.
Well, it depends where you're from.
Being here.
Oh yeah, it's like they are the squirrels of Puerto Rico.
And they're so slow and dumb. Like we've got this one buddy. I've never been able to touch him, and honestly, I'm a little scared of him. But I've got this one buddy who keeps posting videos on Facebook of him petting them. Like he whispers to them and soothes them, and he can just walk up and pet them, and they sit there. And then I remember we were doing this. I think it was like an iPhone 12 or 13 review, and I was shooting some slow motion video between like an old camera, new one, or the camera and the Sony or something.
The pond?
Yeah. And people on YouTube were like, how the hell did you get that footage of it jumping into the water? And I'm like, that happens every day when you just drive down the road. They're like jumping into the, everything. And so I know from everyone else's perspective, like, wow, you got a jumping iguana. And I'm like, that is not special anymore.
Yeah, it's what you're used to and what you're around and what you see all the time.
Right.
I mean, maybe here people would look at this and be like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. I've never seen one of those.
There's food in its mouth.
Yeah, but, I think I don't know if it's fair to say like North America or the Southeast, or, I mean, the squirrels are all over the United States. It's not that exciting. It's kind of bland. It's okay. I don't feel like...
Well, you know what? It was good enough to win a tutorial from the Fstoppers store.
It's good enough for that.
Send me a private message on Fstoppers. Let me know which tutorial you would like. And if you guys would like to be a part of the next critique, head over to fstoppers.com/contest. Not only can you win a free tutorial for a sports image, one winner or two winners? How many?
It's just one winner, but he's going to give a full kit away. So not only are you going to get the 2 mods, which are the circular covers, but you're going to get 2 soft boxes to go with it.
And if you have no clue what we're talking about, head over to our normal Fstoppers channel on YouTube. You just released a video earlier today, right?
Yeah. And he's on the community too, so he's got an incredible portfolio.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. We will see you soon.